when
I
say
don't think you're going to find it to be too much different. Champa, of course, is a rough and tumble uh, type of negotiator whose stock in trade is a morass of non sequiturs, you might say. I mean, he's not interested most of the time, and I think this is a matter of technique,
Yes.
almost doctrine,
Yes.
that you don't talk about the merits of the issue on either side. You talk about, well, that. What do you mean to that? Why, back in 19 so and so, you beat your mother or something. I mean, just it's very difficult. In fact, I'd say impossible to have a rational understanding with Champ on any matter, and I don't think his function as a union representative is that. I think his function is to irritate and kind of raise hell. And then they bring in somebody like Lucy, who's got some brains and who is rational, to try to get down to brass tacks. They found, I think, that we were much more ready to talk about the thing, get it resolved, than they thought we were going to be. So we had to listen to a lot of this anyway in the mediation.
No, what about Mr. Worth? What was his function? Did he replace Champa?
I think Worth spent more time down here than he might have because of the fact that Champa was it alienated so many people that and the public generally in Memphis that he was trying to keep a little bit better relationship with Memphis. I think Worth made many a pious observation in the papers during the time he was here, which Champa was really incapable of making.
And then you do mention Mr. Lucy.
Lucy I got to know only during the mediation settlement.
Can we talk a little bit about the mediation?
Yes.
Let me tell you a little bit about the federal court thing. We filed an injunction suit after the first violence broke out and Martin Luther King left the scene of the march, for good reason. Thereafter, we thought, well, another injunction suit. The union makes use of injunctions by talking about what medieval instruments they are, and you file another injunction suit. You're being more medieval and you're being more right-wing or whatever. The union refers to everybody else as the establishment. And I was definitely elevated and honored because I was referred to as a member of the establishment over and over by the union people, and that's the only time in my life that's ever happened. And I've sought to be a member on many occasions. But in any event, we decided to go in federal court because we figured whatever we filed in the state court, they would endeavor to remove the federal court. We questioned the jurisdiction of the federal court, but went on in. We asked for an injunction against the march. This was right after old King had called for the school children to stay out and march and all these things. I'm sure you have all this. Yes. We got the temporary restraining order. The judge recognized that there could be a jurisdictional problem. We then met in the judge's office after the thing, chambers they call it, and Birch was there representing King, and King's lawyer, Eskridge or something such as that, was there, and 2 or 3 local lawyers representing Negro groups showed up. By this time, the thing was an all-out racial deal. Worth, you might say, was luxuriating in it. But we talked in there that afternoon. We tried to, all of us sitting around Brown's office, tried to work something out.
With the judge?
With the judge, and wanted to, and it was quite, though our position was to enjoin it, our alternate prayer for relief in the petition for an injunction was to set up guidelines. And it was clear to the judge that's what we wanted. Mr. Gennady said the one thing that we must avoid under these circumstances is any injury to Dr. King. And unless there's some sort of... Oh, definitely. That was the reason, not the only reason, but one reason we were in court. I was there with him. I presented it, sat down and let Frank talk. Yes, I mean, it was evident that violence of any kind might develop, and King was putting the heat on to such a degree that you almost felt that something was going to happen to him. You couldn't, I mean, anybody would have that reaction, and we felt that the worst thing in the world that could happen in Memphis would be to have Dr. King shot or have him injured in any way. We were glad he had not been injured in the earlier riot a week earlier on, what was it, 29th of March? 28th. And so we went on into court with that thing, and the court the next day had a full hearing. That night, we had a meeting late that afternoon, 7-ish, after the temporary restraining order was granted. We met with Dr. Young, Lawson, Birch, Holloman, Gennady, and me, I believe, over there in Gennady's office. Young told us that they weren't going to obey any injunction. He said that they, the Negroes, hated or preferred not to break or disregard a federal court injunction. That state